Okay, well, hi everyone, and thank you very much for watching or listening. It's Liam Hartree back with you again today with another episode of Presenting Champions for the Simply Inspired podcast. And today I'm here with a very, very special guest who I'm really pumped and excited to bring to the show, Mr. Luke Leyland, who is the first ever British competitor, or in fact, the first ever non-Nigerian competitor, as far as I know, in the traditional Nigerian sport of Dambe, which we'll be getting into shortly as to what that actually is. An amazing fight sport with a very rich history and something that I think is really going to be getting bigger and be getting more known around the world in due course as well. Luke very, very bravely went over to Nigeria to fight, and that takes absolute balls of steel to do that, mate. So we're going to be talking about that, but we're also going to be talking about other aspects of Luke's life as well, some of his past achievements, some of his future plans, and as always, the mindset that it takes to chase your dreams and goals in life, basically. So, yeah, thank you for coming on the show, my man. It's really good to have you here. It's a pleasure.
Oh, cheers, Liam. I'm a fan of the show. I'm made up to be on here, so thank you for being interested in my story.
No worries at all. No worries at all, mate. My pleasure. So let's kick it off, obviously, with your trip to Nigeria. And before we get into going over there to fight, and before we get into all of that side of things, to give people a little bit of context, when it comes to you and Dambe and you and African Warriors, the promoters of the show, big shout out to them. How did you first hear about those guys, mate?
Well, it was actually I first seen a Dambe fight on YouTube, and that was under the YouTube of African Warriors Fighting Championships, the leading promotion of Dambe. And when I first seen it, I actually thought it was a scene from a movie, just because it's two fellas on a sand, both had a hand wrapped in front of these musicians that were banging drums in front of hundreds of people. This is what I'd seen at this time, and I thought, wow, like what kind of movie is this, or what kind of scene is this? And eventually when I come to learn it wasn't a movie, it was an actual combat sport in Africa. That's what piqued my interest then, and eventually I started watching more and more and becoming used to some of the names and some of the rules and stuff. And I tried to watch as much as I could. I was actually in a different gym at the time, and eventually when I felt it was the right time, I thought, do you know what, there's no time like the present. I'm gonna try and reach out to these people and see if I can go over and get involved in this. And then the rest is kind of history. But they were very, very open to conversations, and I was just so made up that they were quite fast responding as well. And yeah, the rest is kind of history, really.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that now. We'll talk about your actual experiences. Now, some people watching this will know all about the sport of Danbo itself, and some people will be hearing about this for the first time, which is also kind of a big hope of mine with this, is to sort of make some other athletes from around the world know more about the sport and also know more about you personally as well, and sort of get everyone's name out there. But just to give people a little context, can you explain a little bit about Danbo and just the rule set and a few basic things, just for anybody who hasn't seen it, just because we need to keep those people in the loop as well, you know?
Of course, yeah. So Dambe's been going since as far as we know, but as early as the ninth or 10th century. So it's been well over 1,000 years of age that people have recorded it back. There's a lot of different promotions of Dambe. There's also different rules that come with Dambe as well. But the rules that I'm used to and that I've seen is it's usually 3 3-minute rounds. And if you go down in a round, then it's usually they will skip to the second round. It's basically to give the fighter that's gone down an extra chance to come back and obviously fight for to win that round. It's fought by using one hand, and that hand is wrapped in something called a kara, which is a rope, and it's wrapped very, very, very tightly to the point where it actually does feel like you're going to cut off circulation. But what that does, it condenses the fist, and it condenses the fist that much, it actually makes the finished product, if you like, a lot harder than the fist itself, because everything is just extremely condensed. So it's like swinging a mallet or a brick around. So they call that the spear, and that is obviously brings back from the olden days when they used to fight with a spear and shield, and the leading hand, which they use for distance management and for blocking. They call that the shield. So it's the spear and shield. You can also kick in Dambe as well, which I attempted quite a lot of times in my effort at the sport. So yeah, you can kick. Some rules say you can kick only above the waist. The rule set I was under was you can kick pretty much almost anywhere on the body. So yeah, it's a very interesting sport. This is usually held on a sandpit, which is usually a circular sandpit. That's again something that I found very interesting to take part in. And yeah, it's a extremely old sport, and what comes with that sport is a lot of special beliefs. So there's different types of preparations and beliefs that the fighters will have to go through, which I was very interested to go through as well. Um, but yeah, it's a very interesting sport, and I think when the rest of the world find out about Dambe, I think that they're going to be just as hooked as myself.
Absolutely, absolutely, they will. And yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's going to get bigger, and I definitely think it's going to get out there a lot more and attract more international fighters as well. And obviously, people can learn then not only about the fights, but about the rich culture that comes with it, which I love to bits, you know. And it's really good that you've shared a bit about that. So, all right then. So you were in talks with them, and obviously, then the time came to actually go over to Nigeria. And I'm curious about the bit that people don't see with this from the outside, which is obviously what's going through your head and what's going on inside you and in your heart as well, because it takes a lot of that to do what you've just done as well. So, how were you feeling? Were you feeling nervous, excited, something else? What was going through your mind, mate?
Pretty much every single emotion that you can imagine, really. So from the beginning, obviously I contacted African Warriors, and they put me in charge of the leading man of African Warriors, who is Maxwell Kalu. And eventually we started conversations with Maxwell, and my main conversation, or my main objective of the conversation was, are people outside of Africa allowed in Dambe? That was my main interest. And originally he never said no. So I was like, okay, we might be onto something here. So I told him my idea. I told him that I wanted to come over to Africa. I'd like to learn about the culture. I'd like to learn about the sport, and I would like to compete in Dambe. And he seemed interested, but he also wanted to find out a bit more about myself, which the reasons now I know it was because he needed to know if I was the right person for it. Obviously, this has never been done before. Someone from Europe, the UK, Britain has never gone over there before, so it was very important that I was the right candidate, if you like, to not only represent myself and Britain and Europe, but to also go in there and take part in Dambe. And I thought that was very important for Maxwell to actually find that out. I was waiting for him to answer, but he obviously did his own work on me, and which he's very passionate about the sport, and he's almost protective about it. You need the right people in Dambe. You can't just go in there and start swinging. You do need to take part in all its glory and stuff. So eventually, after we started having a conversation, we come to an agreement, and we come to a date. So for me at this time, I thought, okay, now I've just got to start training. So I, at the time, I never had a training partner. I just thought, okay, I'm just going to have to start running, try and hit in the bag somewhere. I never really had much money at the time because I invested a lot of it into trying to get over to Nigeria, and I was very limited in what I could actually use as training, and it was almost like a Rocky montage. Really, I was doing kind of crazy training techniques because I couldn't afford the gym. So eventually, one of my family members reached out, who was actually a Muay Thai fighter, and he said, "Look, I'll train you for this." But what we found out very quickly was Dambe was very hard to train for. You can't train for it unless you had money to kind of prep your own little sand pit and things like that. So we started trying to train and spar in the way of Dambe and different stances, and different movements and guards and things like this. Which we'd done our best, and we thought we'd kind of cracked it. But you learn very fast when you go over there and when you're on that sand and when you're training with their coaches and their style. You can't just guess it. You can't. It's very, very hard to duplicate. So eventually, when I had a date coming forward, it was getting closer. I was training harder and harder. It was originally I'd actually planned to go over with someone, and this particular person said he doesn't want to go. And the reasons for it are just because of media manipulation and ill education on the area. So there was another person that was meant to come with me, and again that fell through. And from there I thought, I'm just going to go over on my own. This is a massive opportunity for me, and I'm not going to go around asking people. If people don't want to go, that's fine. So I understood that I'd have to go over on my own. That itself was a mental challenge. I had to accept if anything was going to happen that was unexpected, then it was all on me. And that's something that I really had to come to terms with. There was a lot of people outside my little circle that when they heard about this, they thought I was insane, and um, they thought it was a bit of a death wish, really. They thought I was ill prepared and everything. And in one hand, you can kind of say, okay, thank you for the worry, but in the other hand, it just didn't help me at that time. If I'm going to be honest, I felt destined to do this. And when you feel destined, like I did, there was nothing that was going to stop you. So yeah, we got to a point where we were a couple of weeks out, a week out, a couple of days out, and I was just mentally, physically, spiritually, everything prepared. And yeah, it come to the day, and I think when you see other people nervous for you, it kind of can make you a little bit nervous. I was up for it. I was game, but my girlfriend and my family and my mum and my close circle were very, very nervous for me. But when you see that sort of thing, it can rock you a little bit. But I just stayed strong and thought, right, okay, let's go. How I approached it, my way was if I had to approach this and know that, okay, I'm going over there, there's going to be cameras there, there's going to be medias there, I'm going to have to fight this person. At the time, my opponent was a champion, and he was a very well-known opponent. If I'm going to have to keep all this in my head and this is the mission, I don't know, I wouldn't have had the right mindset. So the way I approached it was one step at a time. And the first step for me was stepping on that plane. The second step was stepping off the plane. The third step was meeting the African Warriors team, and then so on and so forth. So that's the way I had it in my mind, and that's the way it went all through the journey up until the fight. So yeah, I was on the plane, and I had like 6 hours to go, 4 hours to go, 2 hours to go, and then eventually I come off the plane, was over in it actually took me two flights, but the longest flight I got off at Lagos, and my bag didn't arrive. My big bag with all my main luggage in, with all my stuff in, everything that you can imagine was in there, did not arrive. It was lost. So that at the time I thought, okay, whatever, that's not going to stop me. It was only later on down the line, majority through the journey, I realised, okay, now I need this, now I need that, now I need, all me stuff. And that was a mental challenge to lose that bag halfway through the journey and realise what I had in there. But yeah, to the beginning of the journey, I met Maxwell, met the African Warriors Fighting Championship team, and a couple of cameramen that was there to document it. And yeah, the journey was on, man. There was no going back. It was like a roller coaster journey from there.
Absolutely amazing. I mean, it's an incredible description, my friend. Like I was saying earlier, of the things that people don't see, which is behind the scenes in general. I mean, in all fairness, covering training for the fight and traveling for the fight, and people don't see a lot of this stuff. I know people post their training and things, but people still don't see the amount of work that goes into these things. People don't see the mindset. So those things, it's really important to lay the foundation. So obviously in Nigeria itself, you can also walk us through in a similar way. Obviously, the fight itself, and I'll just let you describe that in your own words because you were the one who was there. But also, there's some rituals before the fight as well. So there's like the Dambe house staying, and I know we were talking on Instagram while you were there, and you were typing with one hand. So thank you for that, by the way. That was pretty cool. But yeah, talk to us, please, about the build up to the fight in Nigeria itself, the fight itself. Anything you'd like to share about the culture as well, just those sorts of things. But yeah, I'm excited to hear about this side of it, please. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. So building up to the fight. So there's a bit of a backstory, really. So building up to the fight, I was due to fight a champion of Dambe who was called GB Jan Sander. Now he's a very popular fighter over there, knockout artist. Just an absolute freak on that sand, and I was built to fight him. So months before this, I was watching him like a hawk. He was fighting multiple times a week. And this is how them Denbei fighters do it. They fight multiple times a week. And I was watching every little bit about him. There was even a part where he was walking into a gym where someone had recorded, and he was with a load of other warriors, and they just wanted to test this gym out. And I was even watching that. I wanted to see how he walked. I wanted to see how he looked in front of a camera when he's not training, when he's not fighting. I wanted to know everything about him. And so going over, and about a week before this, I thought, okay, I'm against Jan Sander. I know as much about him as I can. I've studied him, so I was prepared and ready. So I was, in my mind, I had a game plan. I knew what I was going to do. From watching him many a times, I had an idea of what he didn't like and what he would have struggled with. So building up to the fight, I had a lot of people at home messaging me, and my coach that I was working with at the time messaging me as well and keeping in touch with me, and going through different breathing patterns and stuff. We had a lot of media to do over in different areas. So we obviously started off in Lagos. We ended up in Kanu, and then from there, from Kanu, we ended up in Katsina, where the fight was. So we had a lot of media to do in all three places, and it was very interesting. I done a bit of training with a coach over in Katsina in the actual arena, which you will see, and leading into that training, it was completely different to what we'd been doing back in the UK. We thought it was just an arm extended, throwing the arm about and then leading the backhand, maybe a couple of kicks, movements. It wasn't like that at all, what the coach had shown us. It was completely different. So that was new. And then coming up to a couple of days before the fight, I was told by Maxwell, your opponent's backed out. Jan Sanders not going to be fighting you. And I was just like, what? Because I'd been literally thinking about this man from morning, from night, when I'm asleep, when I'm eating, everything. I was thinking about this man, everything about it. So I was like, okay, so what do we do now? And another little backstory. I was in the arena again a couple of days before this announcement, and I had a bottle of water on me. Because in Katsina, it was very dry heat. Katsina is just on the verge of the Sahara, so it was very hot, very humid. And me and a couple of other fighters were there. Jan Sander was not there. And we were doing just a bits of media and getting used to the arena. And this one of the fighters walked past, and he very gently leaned over and just touched the top of the water bottle and just very gently pulled it. So I let go of the water bottle thinking he wants to wash his hand or something like that. So I automatically give him it. And then he took the water bottle and walked off. So the rest of the fighters to my left started laughing. So I was a little bit confused as to what was going on. And the promoter, Maxwell, sat next to me and said, he's just took your water bottle. So I was like, nah, that's not happening. So instantly I got up and walked after him. And it was a fighter, a fighter called Sheikh Onyalo. And I approached him. I said, hey, and I took the water bottle back off him, and he kind of leaned back. I don't know what he was expecting me to do, but he was like leaning back. And I said, this is mine. And I walked back to where I was sitting, and I said to Maxwell, I said, I've got it back. I said, I would have fought with him over that, because you can't, in that situation, in that environment, you can't let that happen. Not with them boys. It's, they're all very hardened veteran fighters. You can't let that kind of thing happen. But I didn't know it was happening. So in my mind, I was ready to go there and then, and I said to Maxwell, like, I would have fought with him there and then over that. Anyway, a couple of days goes on, and Maxwell says Jan Sanders pulled out. so we need another fighter for you. So I was like, well, who are you thinking? And he said, what about Shay Gone Yellow, the person who took your water bottle? And I said, I'm going to punch his head in. That was the first thing I said. I'm going to punch his head in. I said, that's perfect. So my whole my whole approach to this was very much respectful. But when that happened, I thought, okay, now I'm going to approach this a little bit differently with Shake on Yellow. So the days coming up before the fight, every time I seen him, I had a water bottle. And I was like, come and take, come and take. And he was like, looking around and stuff. And I was trying to get into his head and give him quite a bit of stick. So leading up to the fight, I knew it was going to be a tough one with this guy. He wasn't Jan Sander, he wasn't a champion, but he was a very well respected and vicious fighter with a lot of experience. So I had to be careful with this one. And eventually, a couple of days beforehand, we'd met again, and the only sentence he'd say in English that I understood was he'd look at me and he'd raise his fist and he'd say, "One blow, 7 die." And that was all he'd say. And I thought it was really cool, man. I was like, be quiet, you little gizzard. Like trying to give him loads of stick, but he wasn't having it. Eventually comes to fight day. Wakes up early on that morning. Wanted to try and get my food right. I didn't want to be starving, but I didn't want to be full. I'm not a dietitian, so again, I don't know these things, but I wanted to try and get something in me. About a couple of hours before the fight, I get to the arena ridiculously early as they're still setting up, and there was a bit of confusion. And he said, "Look, you may as well go back and try and get some rest in." So I said, "Okay." Went back to the compound where we were staying, rested for a little bit, but you can't really rest in when you know you're about to fight your heart out. So eventually gets back to the arena, gets called, and I had to wait outside the arena while all the fights were going on. I think it was just a security choice. And someone came up to me and said, "Luke, here's your gum shield." So keep in mind, my bag's gone with my gum shield and everything else in it, so I didn't have nothing. And at that time, I didn't really know that that the fighters were wearing gum shields, so I was shocked. Now, if you've ever worn a gum shield in your life, you know that you have to prepare it by putting it in boiling water, and you need a bit of time. Especially myself, I need a bit of time with a gum shield because my top teeth are a lot more narrow than my bottom teeth, so I usually get mine from the dentist, so it fits in perfectly. With this, I said, we need to boil it. We can't just stick it in my mouth. So they were looking around for boiling water. They couldn't find any. And originally they said, well, what about sticking it in some hot tea? I said, we can't, it doesn't work like that. We can't do it. So I went to put it in my mouth just to see how it was. It was too long. So we ended up cutting it there and then outside the stadium, it was outside the arena, trying to get it to my mouth size. And it wouldn't fit in at all. So I said, look, I'm making this decision. I'm not going to wear a gum shield. Is he wearing one? And he said, no. So I said, I won't wear one then. And people were quite shocked, and they tried to convince me just throw one in even if you can. I said, look, I'll be sick. Gum shields need to be like comfortable, otherwise you end up, it's just not good. So there was a lot of commotion outside the arena because they were packed as it is. People were sitting on walls trying to climb through over the other side. It was just immense. And eventually it was time to call me in. So they only called me in when my fight had been up. So walks in and the stadium was rocking. All you can hear is Dambe, which is Dambe Kadawa, which means white man of House Kudu. So I was also inducted into a house over there, which you fight under houses, which I can explain. Shortly. So eventually walking in there, it was all you can hear is Dambe, and then you can hear Luke Leyland. So gets onto the sand. And I just, from my earlier days, I used to be a professional wrestler, which involves a lot of dealing with the crowd. And I just love the crowd, man. They gave me energy, and it was in front of 8,000 people plus. I mean, there were people sitting, as I said, people sitting on walls there and everything, and they were all just like waving and just feeding off what I was doing. I loved it, man. I had security with me, so it was two fellas with AK-47s, and eventually jumps off the sand and walks up this big stone pathway. I don't know if you've seen the actual arena that it was in, but it was very much it was like a Roman amphitheatre, and in the back was very much Roman amphitheatre like. It was just like a cage on one side, and it was all stone, and that was kind of it really, with some toilets at the back. And as I walks up, Shay Yellow is standing on the side there just before it gets into the back. And I thought I looked at him like as intimidating as anything. I've got these two security with me, and I've got an entourage of people. I'm ready to go, and I just looked at him and I said, "You're getting it, you little gizzard. You were getting it." And his eyes were just black, and he just looked through me, didn't move at all. And as I walked back into the back of the stadium, in my mind, I thought that did not affect him one bit. He was just stone cold, ready to go there, and I thought, right, that was kind of the first time that I thought it hasn't really affected him, because previously I tried to get in his head, and maybe one or two times I thought, I've got you here, but that time there, on fight day, it just did not affect him whatsoever. I'm in the back, I'm trying to go over things with the coach, but obviously there's a language barrier, so we're going over a couple of things. There's cameras there. As I'm looking through the door where I'm getting ready, Shay Yellow's getting ready, and he's tightening his cara, which is the rope, and he's tightening it, and he's pulling it, and he's pulling it, and I'm thinking, okay, it's going to be one of them nights. And before you know it, I'm going over a few things with the coach, and someone leans through and says it's time, and yeah, I goes to walk out.
Okay, well, this is the moment of truth, isn't it? I mean, the fight itself, let's get into it because again, like I said earlier, some people watching this, they will have seen it and everything like that. But obviously, a lot of people, especially hearing this for the first time, they won't have seen it. So, hopefully they'll be able to see you fighting Dambe again. But we'll come to that topic later. For now, this fight, yeah, let's just hear about it in your own words, really, my friend. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, so they said it's time. I goes and walks out. Shay Yellow's already on the sand, and I walks up. In my mind, I was just concentrating on him, but I also wanted to get the energy from the crowd as well. And as soon as it gets on the sand, I goes over. I pay my respects to the musicians, which again is part of what you do there in Danbe. And then it turns around and I'm trying to get the fans going. And then I see Shagon just looking stone cold. And I thought, right, okay, now's the time. And if you watch the fight just beforehand, I can't take my eyes off him. I can't wait to get at him. The referee's got our hands. The referee comes over, and I didn't know this was a thing. The referee took my hand, and he starts wrapping it in sellotape, and just starts going over it and over it. Now my hand is already super 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 tight, and keep in mind I've never really had it this tight before. I've had it once before, which was a couple of days beforehand when the coach was trying to get me used to it. So it's already super tight, and now this referee's just going around my hand with sellotape. It's obviously a safety precaution in case the rope comes off or anything. So that was kind of new to me, and I was like, right, okay. Gives a bit of a wave to the crowd, and then I'm looking at Shaken, and referee blows the whistle, and we're off. So in my mind, I'd already been practicing this. I went through the same kind of role of what I was going to do to Jan Sander, which was attack the leg straight away. If you look at Danbe, they leave their leading leg out for the taking. So I'm thinking, if I can be very fast at this and just give him at least two or three good calf kicks, that could be the difference. So I start off with a couple of calf kicks, and I've connected with him, but I haven't connected with him where I wanted. The first one was all right; it wasn't perfect. The second was a little higher, and then from there, all he had to do was like kind of lift his leg and turn, and I wasn't getting the full impact. I can turn my hips as much as I want, but I just wasn't getting it. So I was trying to give him a little bit of like, I've got you there inside, and then I thought if I can make him think I'm going to the legs, I can catch him on the chin. So I was faking down low for a little bit, and then eventually I went to throw as fast as I can. I punch up top, and he only moved back a little bit, and it was just a couple of inches away, and he didn't seem bothered by that. He just seemed to go straight back to the beginning, and then he was off again. And I thought, he's not bothered here at all. But he's used to this. Again, these fighters fight multiple times a week, and this is multiple weeks, multiple months, and for years and years and years. And this is their ancestors have been doing this as well. So for some why I didn't think he was shocked, I don't know. But on the sand as well, as I'm moving on the sand, it wasn't. me feet being slowed down by the sand, I felt it was very uneven. That's something that I didn't really take into consideration beforehand, because I'd been on sand back in the UK. I'd been on that particular sand once before the fight, just trying to get used to it, and it was very uneven. So as I threw a kick again, he's bounced back because obviously he's expecting it, and I've spun round. Now in Dambe, the rules that I know is that you can come from behind and attack you from behind. Obviously, no fighter wants that at all. So for me, as I've missed a kick, I've gone to spin completely round. That felt like an eternity that I was spinning round. If you watch it back now, I spun completely round and fell over. But in my mind, I've spun round dead slow. And in my mind, he's coming for me from behind, which he had every right to do, by the way. We've all agreed to the rules. So as I've spun round, I've gone a bit faster. And as I've come back, I've lost my footing and ended up on the floor. And I thought, no. So the rules state there, if you go down, it's not the end of the fight like some rules. We'll go to the second round, which gives that fighter a chance to come back. Now, if I was to come back, I think they would have went to the third round, and that's a decider. So I'm already to the second round, and I'm thinking, okay, silly move, but it's okay. I felt like I've overcommitted on it. We've gone over to the side. I've seen the coach. The coach is like, "You're going in for him. Just stay back." It's a technical game, Dambe. It's not just about going in there swinging. It's very, very technical. And the coach is going mad at me in his own language, and he's saying, "Keep your hand up. Wait for him. It's technical. Stay back." So I'm like, right, okay. It goes over, pays tribute to the band again. I want to get the crowd on my side again to give me that energy. And we go again. This time he leans forward. Something so simple. He leans forward with the leading hand. I don't know if I'm the thing there. And he went from here to there and then threw a punch straight away. It's just something so simple. But he moves across the sand like a fish in water, very fast. And he underestimated that. And I've took one square to the chin, and he's rocked me back. Now, in my mind, I didn't want to take any because, as I said earlier on, that's like stone. You get that in the correct place on the chin, anyone's going down. But as soon as I took it, I thought, okay, I'm still here. I've still got all my functions. I'm fine. Keep going. Um, Kept going to my best of my ability, and he does it again, forward, bang, and clocks me again. And I'm thinking, I don't want to be taking too many more of these. We ends up in I think I'm on the opposite side now, and he goes for me again. And I'm moving back, and I'm getting closer to the edge of the ring. Now, if you go out the ring, that's counted as one fall again. So if I was to go out the ring there, it's over. So in my mind, I thought, right, he's hitting you. And I had my guard up at this point, and he's striking, which I was comfortable there, by the way. I was all right. But then he's still striking. But I needed to get a shot off. So I'm thinking, forget about the legs now. It's just about a fight. So I'd overcommitted in, if you look back, some form of haymaker, which only missed him by, again, a couple of inches. Because I've overcommitted, I put my hand down on the sand. Now, I brought my hand back up straight away because I didn't want to get the second fall, otherwise the fight's over. He's through again. I think he may have clocked me again, I'm not too sure. But then I thought the only thing I can do is just, again, throw another one. Threw another one, again, overcommitted. My hand's gone down. The ref's seen it. The commissioner's also seen it. And he's come on and just said, look, you've been beaten 2 rounds there. It's over, essentially, like. And I was gutted because in my mind I thought, look, I wasn't going to go into this thinking, okay, I'm going to get beat. You have to believe in yourself somewhat that you can, it only takes one punch. So in my mind, I was like, I'm coming here to win this. I didn't think I was going to storm in there and blow him over and be all this, but I knew I can give him a fight. And that's what I tried to do. And when it was over, the first thing that I told Maxwell I was going to do, which I wanted to do, was go and find Shay Yallow and shake his hand and say thank you for the fight. Because I've been giving him stick all week because he tried to embarrass me with the water bottle. And I wanted to put an end to it respectfully, because that's what I'm about. That's how I was raised. So there was a bit of commotion in the sand pit. People thought I was going after him again. I said, no, I want to shake his hand. I want to shake his hand. So eventually Maxwell explained to the commission and everybody else, it's over. He wants to shake his hand out of respect. Went over and seeing Shay and just said, look, we're brothers now. Thank you for fighting me. Obviously, he probably didn't understand that, but he understood my body language. Give me a little hug, and then Yeah, it was just a bit of a media frenzy from there, really. For some reason, all the media come run over to me. I got showered with quite a bit of money. That's what they do at the end of a fight. Out of respect, they will shower you with money. And then we paid our respects to some of the VIPs there, and then we went in the back. But yeah, and just embraced with Shagon again, and just thanked him for fighting me, and um, told him obviously he was the better Dambe fighter on that night, and thank you. And then we had just literally cameras and media in my face then, and I tried to keep Shagon with me, but for some reason they didn't want him there. They just wanted me, and I thought, hold on, he's the winner. He's just beating a foreigner. He deserves the money. He deserves the cameras. He deserves the fame. But they just weren't interested. So um, from there, I've done a little bit of media, tried to get myself together, and then we went back to the compound where we were staying, which was a nice touch. We got a shake on there later on, and we had something to eat together and done a little interview. So that was a nice touch, which I was made up with. But yeah, that was the night. But it was one made for history. It didn't go quite my way, but I made up that of I got to fight Shagon, and yeah, I tried my best in there. And I say to the world now, have a go at Dambe. If you want to find out about yourself, have a go at Dambe. You certainly do feel like you're in a tank with sharks, but you certainly find when you're in them scary situations, you certainly find out about yourself. Like,
Absolutely, absolutely amazing. Well, it's an incredible story. I mean, it's one thing to see the fight and everything, but it's another thing to hear about it firsthand like this. And again, like I said earlier, your descriptions of this are amazing. They're very, very vivid. So I can really sort of feel like I'm there for a moment, as you're describing it, and it really comes to life. And that's great for our listeners as well. So coming away from it now, we'll talk about the future shortly. But you said you find out about yourself, so again, from the sort of internal perspective, when you look back on a fight now, okay, it didn't go your way, but I mean, traveling across the world to fight a guy in his own back garden who's been doing this for years or however long he's been doing this, the preparation, I mean, your preparation was very thorough, but obviously there's differences. I mean, when you look back on it now, hopefully you feel the sense of pride and hopefully you learn one or two things about yourself in the process. This is something that fascinates me about sports and combat sports in general is testing yourself. Can you share with us maybe one or two lessons you took from testing yourself in that way, basically? I mean, I know it's going a little bit deeper into the mindset side of things again, but, facing your fears, you mentioned little things like visualizing it before the fight and sort of running it through and all of this side of things. So yeah, one or two things you figured out maybe about yourself from facing that experience, I think would be a really good topic that people don't get into enough. So let's talk about that, please, mate, as well.
yeah, just going into the experience, it's to be honest. I mean, the reason why I've gone into this goes back when I was a babby, how I was raised. The way my mum and dad raised me was to um, pretty much go into believe in yourself, go into whatever you want to try and go into if you believe in it, and just challenge yourself with certain things. So I was raised with people saying, "How much would it take for you to step in the ring with Mike Tyson?" I'd say nothing. I'd be on it. I'd be absolutely on it. All right, you get a beating, but I'd be absolutely on it. And like to be sitting there saying I've done that would be amazing. Now these people, or the people would say, "Oh, it could take me 10 million, 15 million." I'd pay for it. This is the different mindset you see. Now that's not me being crazy or thinking I'm something. It's just the way I was raised, like to step into these things because you can always take them away with you. And I remember being very young in the professional wrestling school, and there was this fella there, this big wrestler called Dan Singh, and he ended up part of. I think he was hosting a bodybuilding show, and he ended up being one of the new generation gladiators. And he was a great wrestler as well. I think he's actually gone into acting now. But at the time, he was training with us, and he was a huge unit at this time. And we, were, as well as professional wrestling, we would also do like a little bit of amateur wrestling as well, like shoot wrestling. So it's like legit wrestling. So how to kind of defend yourself on the floor and things like that. And I said we went back to ours years ago, me and a couple of other students, and we were talking about how big Dan is. And I said, I want to see if he'll have a shoot match with me, which is legit. See who can make the other one tap. And everyone started laughing and said, like, oh, yeah, Luke, he's going to bat here. I said, maybe so, but wouldn't you be made up to say you got in there and had a go at him? And they were like, no, not at all. So I was like, I don't understand your way of thinking. Like, I'll be made up to say I've had a go. In the end, they're saying to me, Luke, he's going to beat you up. Luke is going to beat you up. And we went in there, and I said, Dan, is it okay to have a shoot with you? And he said, yeah, of course, mate, jump in. I think it lasted about a minute. Guess what happened? He beat me up. but the point is, I was still made up to this day getting in there with him and just having a go, testing myself. And this is what all this was. I wanted to test myself against these warriors and see how I did. It wasn't against the style that I've got. I wanted to go over there and learn Dambe, learn the culture, learn the magic, and test myself against greatness. That's what I wanted to do, and that's how I've been raised, and that's what I'll always do. This is what I've always wanted to do, just test myself against these things and see how I come off. You know, it didn't go my way this time, but I'm always going to test myself against these things. Yeah, I think it's a lot to do with your mindset, and it's a lot to do with how you're raised. I've got a big problem with modern day society in my local community and area. Modern day society says you should be happy in a place that you're not happy with. So you should be happy in your job that you hate. You should be happy with your girlfriend that you don't get on with. You should be happy in the house that you don't like. No, I disagree with that. I was raised to, if you want to be happy, then go and find it, go and do it. If you want to do something, go and do it. And this is literally how I've been raised, and this is what has led to this. And to be a part of such a rare sport as Dambe, and to go against such an amazing warrior as Sheikh Onyalo in an arena like that one, the biggest arena in that country, was it was just absolutely amazing. And this is the reason why my mum and dad was telling me to do these things. Mainly my dad when I was growing up. This is the reason why they were telling me to do these things, so I can look back and say, yeah, if I'm really, really old and I'm lucky enough to live 80, 90, and I start losing my memory and I need my family to tell me what person I was and then to tell me, like, you were this person, I want to be able to say, wow, I sound like one hell of a guy. And this is the reason why I want to do all this, man, just for the experience. So, yeah, that's just my mindset.
I love it. I absolutely love it, mate. I mean, it's something that you've got to do these things when they come for exactly those reasons. I'm with you on that 100%. Looking back, no regrets, all of that side of things. And but what I love about that with you, though, is you've done it in a very authentic way. And I think there's a lesson there where you're testing yourself and it's an internal thing, but you've done it in a very authentic way where you've followed like something that really draws you in, obviously being Dambe in this instance, and it not being something sort of conventional or whatever. I mean, it being something out of the box, but something that really means a lot in your soul and in your heart. And so I think it's very much a valuable lesson with this for people in life of being true to yourself, being true to, like what you were saying there, not following what other people put on you, but saying, okay, actually, this is me. When you strip away these layers of, what my parents think, what my peer group think, what my boss thinks, whatever, social media, all these external, you strip all that away and think, okay, actually, no, this is what I want to do. And I'm just underpinning that because it's a really, like, regardless of people being fighters, I mean, this, guys, to our listeners, education, business, sports, this lesson applies, across the board. So it's really, really good. So let's talk a little bit as well about your future plans, because now one of the things that's interesting about this is now you've really pushed the boat out there. I mean, you've taken a massive leap and gone over there, done these amazing things, represented Britain and Europe, made history by being the first person to do this, which is also pretty neat actually, because your name will always be there as the first man to do this, and obviously fought one of the top guys, which I also think is pretty cool because the fact he wasn't intimidated in one bit and all that everything you described there. So you really, really, really pushed it along. Do you want to go back to Nigeria and do it again? Do you want to do some other sort of combat sport now and try something else? What are some of your future plans from? I mean, I know it's quite recent, so at the moment you're still soaking this in, I'd imagine. But when you do look forward now, do you have something concrete that you're aiming for from here?
My original plan was to look at these sports that are just in certain parts of the world that not many people know about, and to take part in them if I can, and to approach it with respect and to try and get some sort of platform for them. Now, Dambe didn't really need a platform. Really, the African Warriors Fighting Championships did an amazing job before I was there, but they also did an amazing job when I was there. You know, they promoted me, and you wouldn't have seen me without them. So shout out to African Warriors Fighting Championships. But um, my original plan was to have a go at this and then have a little look at what else is out there. There's so many other sports out there with a similar notoriety to where Dambe was, where not many people know about it. And I would love to be able to just give these amazing combat sports some form of platform and to take part in them. I don't have to be the first, I don't have to do anything like that, but just to have a go and take part and to be able to say, I've had a go at that one day. Um, yeah, I would love to do that. As far as Nigeria goes, I've got to shout out to the Nigerian people. Like they have just the moment I touched down in Nigeria, for some reason, they loved me, and they really took me on and accepted me into the culture, and just it was amazing. Even after the fight, leaving the arena, they were chanting for me, and they were outside the bus. I put a little video up on my social media, on my Instagram, of where they're outside the bus and they're all there. Just this is after the fight, after I've been beaten. Just wanting pictures and just to grab my hand and that, and it was amazing. So to go back there, I would love to do that. And if I didn't have certain things going on in the UK, I'd probably still be there now with the people, like just raving. But there is talks of a rematch going over there, but it needs to make sense. Dambe, it's not a sport to take lightly. You're swinging around something on your hand that is like stone. I took a few smacks there. Lucky enough, I never went down, and I absorbed them, and I was all right. But you can't take too many of them. These fighters do it multiple times a week. It's such a brutal sport, and obviously, people have been hurt bad in the past, and probably even worse. And so, for me to go back and have a rematch, it needs to make sense. But that'll come with conversations with African Warriors Fighting Championships and other people. But for me, I think at the moment, I want to stay straight on my original plan, which was to try different sports, and document get me getting out there and doing these different sports and trying to get these amazing combat sports a platform and just take part in it, trying to get them tourism and things like that. I'd love to do that. I mean, for me, if I could finance it permanently in my life, I'd be traveling the world doing that. So that's probably going to be my next step as it stands. But as I say, there's a lot of conversations I need to have with a lot of people first to get me true destiny, me true destination. But yeah, I would like to go around the world and do different sports.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, well, there's some great sports out there that in these different cultures that have some incredible heritage. Obviously incredible forms of competition, and they're not known about enough. And it's funny enough, it's something we sort of cross over on that because it's something I try and do with this podcast as well as I try and get like unusual stories and things like that. But one of the things that happens with that is like the rare sports, like yourself. It's really cool to give them a platform as well. Like I've done it a lot with Lethway and certain other things that people don't know about, and
Yeah.
it's really really cool. So I'm excited for your future, and I definitely think there's going to be a lot more. Now I am going to say to our viewers as well. Please follow Luke on social media. Have a little look at what he's doing. Obviously, this is going to get bigger, so sponsorships and things like that. I'm sure you'd be very interested in that. So anyone who's interested in jumping on board, look him up, guys. And I am going to give that a quick shout out as well. Now, in a minute, we'll touch on another subject there, but I have to ask as well one other thing. Obviously, with your background wrestling and all this type of thing, was this actually the first fight you've had, all in all, where it's like a striking form of combat? In other words, so you said about the wrestling, where obviously it's very skilled with the grappling, but in terms of, have you done any like amateur boxing or anything, or it was just straight into this?
So from a kid, so just straight from the beginning, I originally started off in when I was very young, about I think it was like 9, 10, maybe 11 in Taekwondo. Went into Taekwondo, got to, I can't remember how long I was in there, maybe a year, maybe a little bit more. Got to a point where I was competing. Had one competition and I was using hooks, so the referee deducted points, which led to me losing the bout. I come away from there. I end up in some physical conflict in Birkenhead and realised that for me, Taekwondo wasn't my martial art. I believe there's a martial art for every person. Um, Taekwondo wasn't my martial art. With respect to Taekwondo, it just wasn't for me. So away from that, I was at the time interested then to find out what would really help me if I come into physical conflict again. And one of my cousins brought me into this closed down pub years ago when we started wrestling, and he showed me how to do a few little things. And then the next time I got into a little bit of conflict, that really, really helped because I knew this other person's body more than him. And I was very safe and he wasn't. And then I thought, right, okay, so wrestling seems to be a part of, wrestling seems to work for me. So leaving that, my dad then said, why don't you go into a little bit of boxing? So I've been a part of a few boxing gyms around Birkenhead. I've sparred quite a lot, but I've never had an amateur boxing bout. Now, which will probably sound strange because some of the media started getting a bit confused when they were asking me about stuff, and they started billing me as this boxer from Liverpool, which isn't. It's not true. So that's that sort of out. I've never had a boxing match in my life. I've sparred a lot of people, but again, I've never fought. So from that, I moved to professional wrestling while still having a little bit of the odd boxing gym in the background. And then the professional wrestling became my job then. I was taught by a gentleman called Dean Allmark, who in the UK is quite a famous wrestler. And he, just basically taught me from there. I was a professional wrestler for about 3.5, 4 years, maybe longer. And that was my job, as I say, traveling up and down the country. But to be a professional wrestler, Dino has taught us the amateur side as well, how to properly take care of yourself if you need to, because the professional wrestling side was more of a performance. So I kind of was more of attracted to the amateur side because it worked in physical conflict. These moves really worked. So I was like, right, okay. So I always took a little bit of Dean's lessons away from me. And then, became a professional wrestler. And then from there, the life of a professional wrestler is very, very, very tough. You're traveling up and down the country. To be a British professional wrestler, you're not really paid that much. So you really do have to be fueled by passion. And it's, not a lot of people make it to the big time. So from there, I understood that I was getting older, and a lot of younger people were needing surgeries through it and stuff. And I thought, right, I need kind of a little bit more of income here. So then I moved away from that, but I always had a passion for combat sports. And then, eventually just through going through different gyms and trying different things, I had the day of looking at Dambe, African Warriors Fighting Championships, and I thought I really want to be involved in this. I'm always terrified and scared of leaving things too late, and one day waking up 80 years of age, if I'm lucky enough to live that long, as I say, and I can't do anything. I want to be able to say, do you know what, I've had my best go at everything that I wanted to do. And if I fail, so what? At least I've had a go. So that's my background in combat sports, if you like. It's my first real bout, if you like.
Yeah, I love that, man. I think that's wicked. To be fair, I mean, just jumping in the deep end like that, and the philosophy behind it, the meaning behind it as well, because that's like a big thing for myself personally. Doing the show is the meaning behind what people do, not just what they do. And I really think that you represent some really good principles with what you're talking about there. So I'm really excited to see where it takes you. I definitely think that down the road, when you've done some other weird and wonderful stuff, we can always catch up and do
Yeah.
this, and we can update. And I mean that as a compliment, by the way. But I mean it as a compliment. But
No,
out of the box, out of the box. And when you've done some more of that, we'll catch up and we'll do this again because there'll definitely be some more stories to tell. I don't say that to everybody, but there's one or two people where I think, you know what, I think there's like more to come with this. In the meantime, before we wrap things up, which we'll do shortly, is there anyone that you'd like to thank who helped you on the journey? Because I know you went there alone, which also massive respect for that, by the way. But in terms of, you mentioned a family member who helped you, you mentioned a couple of people. I usually close out these interviews by just giving a quick mention to people who've put some help in along the journey. Obviously, African warriors themselves, big shout out, what they're doing is amazing. But in terms of getting there, is there anyone else you'd like to thank, mate, or have we covered everybody with that?
To be honest, there's too many people to thank. I did not do this on my own. Even though I went to Africa by myself, um, I did not do this alone, if that makes sense. There was a lot of people in the background. Well, I think one of the biggest downfalls of any main mission or adventure is mentality. And it was tough there sometimes, especially without my case, especially without boxies, especially without like underwear and things like that, or toothbrush. My head was going at one point. But African Warriors helped me. There was a lot of my family members that helped me. There's too many of them to say. I've got a girlfriend called Louise who really, really helped me mentally when I was away there. My mum helps me with anything I do, just mentally, just keep it being there. But all this really wouldn't be really possible without the heart that I've been given by my old fella, by my dad. And he's learnt me how to really look at these challenges as something to take with you through life, and win or lose, as long as you take part in it, that's what matters. So there's far too many people to thank on this, but I did not do this alone. Trust me, I had a lot of people behind me.
Yeah, well, sometimes that happens where it's a long list, and I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but at the same time, I do like to mention that briefly because there's a lot of people doing good work again behind the scenes. Feeding back to what we said earlier, they do good work to help people like yourself chase their dreams, but they don't necessarily get recognised publicly, and obviously that's not what it's all about. I mean, they're doing it for their reasons in here, but at the same time, it's good to give that a brief mention. Well, like I say, mate, it's been amazing to hear the story firsthand. But it's dream come true for me actually, because partly because Dambe was one of the very few that's left off the list of all the combat sports I've interviewed. But as I've already said, more importantly than that, what you represent as an individual by doing this, I think it's really inspiring for people. Authentic self, like I said, chasing your dreams, taking the leap. I hope it gives a bit more exposure to yourself personally, to the sport of Dambe, to African warriors, and everything like that. I hope it basically helps everybody. And yeah, I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. I really enjoyed chatting with you. And like I've already said, keep in touch, because down the road, I can definitely see an episode 2 forming. Give it a couple more big trips. But yeah.
Liam, 100% there'll be an episode 2, or something could be going on, honestly. So keep an eye on this. Keep an eye on this. There's something going on. So yeah, no, listen. Thank you for having me on the show. Thank you for just being interested in my story. And I'll be watching all your other videos coming up as well. I'm a fan of yours, so keep doing your thing, man, mate.
Oh, thank you, mate. Top man. Appreciate the support. And yeah, keep in touch. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.